Yo!
Video games.
What up, dudes? Welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to our generous patrons who've kept us going for nearly 500 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week is Mike M. A lot of mics. So some of you mics might not know which mics we're talking about. And
We're
a
talking
lot of you are
about you,
actually
Mike. That's right, Mike. We're talking about you.
Because we care about you, Mike.
Mike. Well, this is Mike
Mike?
M, but
This is Mike M. But we care about all the mics. It's like in the 80s. I'm assuming 80s, maybe not 80s, maybe
not 80s. But
maybe you're one of the youths.
If you're a youth, apologies, but for a lot, there's a lot of Mikes who were born at a very specific point in time.
A lot of Mikes and a lot of Steves in the 80s.
Yeah, apparently Jason was a common name in the 80s.
Yes. Jason was huge.
Which
yes.
I saw a couple growing up, but like not a ton personally. But apparently it was huge. It was everywhere.
I knew like 4 Jasons growing up just in those blue apartments that I grew up in.
Oh, wow.
There were 4 of them there, and Andrew was big too. Except the kid that I knew growing up was just Drew.
Drew. And then became Drew Carey.
No, but that would have been cool. No, instead he got a lazy eye and sold porno out of his garage to kids who shouldn't have been buying porn. That guy wasn't great.
You gotta make. Dude, was this the one where like the garage burned down and he was just
and
like
he ran into a
devastated?
fire to steal? Yeah. So this apartment caught on fire, and like in the garage, the guy who lived there, I guess, was like a porn producer or something. So this kid ran into a garage that was on fire. The guy had like actual film reels, and film reels are notoriously
Oh God,
flammable.
that's like.
And he was like a photographer for, so it wasn't like Vivid, it wasn't like hardcore porn, it was like Playboy, a lot of like centerfolds and like so like
Okay.
a lot of stills.
Unique distinction.
Yeah, and the kid ran in and like grabbed a case of like still photography prints, and it was all porn, and he just sold, and like magazines and stuff and centerfold photos, and he sold that for like months after that guy's garage blew up. Caught on fire. It didn't blow up. But anyway, the point is the 80s, a lot of people were like Mikes. Mikes were big. Steves were big. Matts were big too. We know how many Matts do we know? We know a few Matts. So
Yep.
now there's a lot of Khaleesi's. And we can't really.
I think that died very quickly though. Like
It sure did.
between seasons, 3 and 7, a lot of kids were named Khaleesi, and then after season 7, no kids named Khaleesi.
Oh boy. And what nickname do you even give a person that you named Khaleesi? That's rough.
It's kind of funny because like I was driving around on the radio. It said something to the effect of that the most watched TV show of all time, including streaming, apparently, is Game of Thrones. Which I was like, I thought it was going to be The Office or The Simpsons.
I thought it'd be like Walking Dead. The Walking Dead was like huge.
Yeah,
Massive. Still
that's
is.
also true. But I mean, there was a point in time where everyone and their mother was watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And then, and I only kind of casually watched it as I was like coming and going. My roommate would be watching it in the living room at the time, and sometimes I'd sit down and watch like. And here's a completely. I didn't watch it in any sequential order. There were never complete episodes, and I just remember thinking, "Wow, this show is really starting to go downhill." It was the season immediately after they went off the books.
Oh yeah.
And this is from just someone watching like 15, 20-minute blocks at a time. And I was like, man, this is like really going nowhere, isn't it? And then I didn't see the ending, but it was the shot heard around the world. And I've never heard of such a, I've never seen people go every beer drinking, NASCAR loving, just
You've never
casual
seen
as
merch
casual you can
disappear
get
so fast.
Yeah, never seen merch because they were all wearing I drink and no things shirt. Everyone was in on this show, and then the ending came out and no one liked it. Nobody, not one single person on planet Earth liked it.
I've never seen a career do a loop-de-loo like that, where they were top of the world and then gone. Um, they came from nothing. Well, I forget which one of them it is, wrote Troy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Troy is a fun movie. I wouldn't call it a great movie, but it
It's
is a fun
fine.
movie. Yeah, it's good. I'm not shitting on Troy. Genuinely enjoy it.
Competent. Let's just say it's a competently made film.
Yeah, one of them made that, but that was like their only big thing. They were literal no names, but they got George R. R. Martin on board, and then through that sold HBO. Um, and now you don't hear anything about anything they're working on. They've just sort of disappeared. They did Three Body Problem, I think.
They
And that
had a
was
trilogy planned for Star Wars, and then that got canned too.
yeah, they just sort of fell off the map. Now, granted, they're fine. I think both of them are the sons of major investors, uh, which are the villains of this episode. So I guess they still are. The two Dans are both villains of the episodes. I think one of them is the son of the president of Goldman Sachs, or was the CEO of Goldman Sachs for like
Jesus.
ever. Yeah, it's like people who didn't need the success but got it anyway. And actually, more power to them. Those are who always can rough it out to get
Yeah.
meetings and eat shit forever. Because that's the secret of any entertainment. How long can you keep smiling while you're eating shit? That's it. Just eat shit and smile, and you will get somewhere. Period. You don't have to have talent. You don't even have to have luck. You just have to be able to eat mountains, miles of shit, and keep smiling, and you will eventually get there. I'm not saying how long it'll take,
I
but you
don't
will
know
eventually get there.
actually if that's true in the game industry though. Like,
Well, the game industry's it's quite a bit different. Yeah.
it's kind of weird now because it's starting to come out more and more because we're seeing obviously more. There was layoffs today. I think 300 to 400 people are getting laid off from EA, 100
Yeah.
from Respawn. Titanfall extraction shooter got canceled.
Yeah, and people were joking about that. We're being like, "Yes, yeah, thank God, an extraction shooter," and it's like, you're laughing about Yes, the contraction was always going to happen, but you're being a dick about something that is definitely going to hurt in a year or so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's extraction shooters are kind of quickly becoming the new hero shooter or the new
Battle
BR.
Royale, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it probably wouldn't have been successful, honestly. I don't, but then again, I don't know that I wasn't really sure Apex was going to come in and be
Yeah,
like, okay, Titanfall BR, that's good. I don't know, is that going to hit? It did.
and still is sort of going pretty strong,
It is.
isn't
It
it?
is kind of going. I don't know if it's going strong, but it's going. But it's just. I think the funny part is another Titanfall cancellation.
Yeah.
Like,
We're never
like,
getting we're never getting a true Titanfall
yeah,
follow-up.
like Apex, not Apex. Respawn just can't catch a break. It's just, oh man, like I mean, it is Papa EA, but again, so why are we continuing to see these layoffs? And there is a good video breakdown that came out today. I think we both watched it.
Yeah, it's by Alana Pierce, and
Lana Pierce, she went and talked to some investors, like she went and talked to people, like
well,
shareholders.
And she read through like a 200-page report, which I perused. I did not read through. I do not have her dedication.
230. I mean, but that was mostly for data, and analytics and analysis and stuff. And I mean,
Yeah,
you
which
can
is where
look,
all
you can
this-
go, yeah, you go look at your report yourself and just look at the graph charts or whatever.
That's always where like the blood is. Like that's where
Yeah.
you can really see like the I forget what the actual term is, where it's like the knives, where the actual cuts are being made, where the murders are done. It's always in those like analytical reports with the insane titles. But no, if you're not following her, or like her, Schreier, Matt Piscatella, they're all good follows if you want insight into, because she's now a TV director or something like that, but she was a developer forever. She's a streamer. She's sort of like, I don't know, balls deep in every facet of the gaming industry, or at least was for a long time, and is now bringing that to bear for like content creating.
Yeah.
So Good
if
follow
anything,
if you want.
she said what we said. Honestly, we said this years and years ago. I think
Yeah,
the
she
biggest
just had
takeaway
hard
here.
data that we didn't necessarily have access to at the
Yeah,
time.
well, it's like actual quotable stuff, and
Yeah.
and again, we said this years ago, and that is because I mean, you do vote for your wallet. It does kind of count, but at the end of the day, game companies don't care about us. They don't care about me, you. They don't care about anyone listening to this. They don't care about any particular person. They're not interested in that. Like the customer is not, the customer is always right. But here's the thing: you are not the customer. The people buying video games are not the customer of the game publishers. The customer is the shareholders. They are the ones that hold all the power, and they are the ones
Investors.
that game companies only care, publishers in particular. Game publishers only care about the shareholders. They're the only people who matter. So once you understand that, and we understood this before we ever got to the quagmire we're in now, which is all the mass layoffs and all this, and why is all that? Before any of that was happening, we were saying shareholders are the important ones. We're not the important ones. But now now here's the hard data, and it's like, why are shareholders? But so why did this lead to all these layoffs and whatever? And I think the data, if anything, is just kind of like it's ironically like stupid to me because what happened
The key
was
thing that I took away from her whole video that like sticks in my brain that just like I can't get rid of it is the gaming industry is the most insanely profitable entertainment industry there is. And it's over the last 5 years, especially, the line goes straight up. In 2022 or 2023, it made $192 billion.
dollars.
And then the next year, it went down by $10 billion to $182 billion, which was still higher than the like 2 years ago point. And that 10 billion drop, that minuscule drop in the scheme of things, is why all these layoffs are happening. It's because it went into what she points it out as like I'm paraphrasing. It has become a mature market. It no longer has the potential for explosive growth. And so investors were like, oh, we're getting out of here. Going where? AI, a market they think can explode because they're all speculative. They're essentially, they're not gambling, but they're basically gambling.
It's a casino to them.
Yeah, they're trying to make explosive growth. It doesn't matter that the game industry is still more profitable than it's ever been. I mean, starting in 2015, it absolutely skyrocketed. It doesn't matter that it's still the most profitable industry or entertainment industry.
Like the games were on a slow upward trend until 2010, and then it started to really curve upward, and then COVID hits and it goes really insanely high, or whatever. And because the thing is, I was shocked. It didn't actually even drop that much post COVID. It's gone down like a little bit. Like it went down a little bit, but like the little bit it went down from 21 is higher than every single year. Like, okay, we're higher now than any year before 2019, like by leaps and bounds. Like you go before 2019 and video games never made this much money. They didn't even make close as much money. You go 2015, you go 2010, we were like a third, like half or a third of what they make now. But so they're making money hand over fist, but it's not good enough because the whole point of shareholders and stock market is that you're always doing better than the year before.
Line only go up.
Right. So, and you say, well, that's kind of dumb. How can you always go? How can things always forever go up? They can't. And that's why the shareholders were saying mature market. The point is that they reached saturation. They reached a point where there's no one left to sell to.
Well, and that's why Microsoft's doing the everything is an Xbox, right? They're trying to target they're trying to get a new market, especially poorer markets that can't afford other devices or higher end devices.
Which is why having game, like as Microsoft announced today, like
I'm going to link to her video in the show notes so you can, if you're If you want,
I mean,
the
this is the
more
worst
detailed
time to have game prices go up and game consoles go up. Like Microsoft has said, they're raising everything by the end of the year. Everything's going to go up to $80. Everything's going to go up like at least $80 for consoles,
and yeah, their controllers are going up. Everything like
everything's going up. And
accessories,
there's
everything. Yeah.
and you know why why is it going up? It's not even pure greed. I mean, we'll be honest here. I don't care. I don't care. You mean I want me saying, well, it's just because of the Trump tariffs? Like it is. It's a bogus trade war that you know it's going to just cause everything to go up. Like games were going to go up though. I mean, games were going to go up, and you know, because the argument's going to be like, there's no way games could sustain themselves at even $60. Kind of true, but again, why was that unsustainable? Because of this stock market thing, which is unrelated to the tariffs, which is the whole idea. Like, well, how we have to make more money than the year before, and I'm like, even when you're making $190 billion, you have to make more. And I'm like, okay, well, stupid.
The thing about this is like, it doesn't matter who would be in office right now. The tariffs and the trade war would be happening. Biden was doing a trade war too. It's just that he went to such an extreme so fast that it is nonsensical to basically anyone that I have found talking about it. Like every economist that I have, right, including his own Scott Bessent, which is his chief economic advisor, and I think is like Stephen Moran is the other. They themselves before they became embroiled in politics, they themselves said this was a bad move. So, and they're the masterminds behind the tariffs and picking what needs to like happen. It's just they weren't pushing for an extreme like this. This became hyperbolic. So while yes, we do not want to dive into politics, there is no way to avoid it. The tariffs are
We're not going to ignore the fact that everything's going up in price, and why is it going up so fast, so immediately? Yeah, it's tariffs. Straight up.
Not trying to hit you in the face with the real world. We do want it to be a positive as much as possible podcast, but that is.
But yeah,
if you're not reading that,
but again, like going back to before that, and I'm just saying this is just the worst time now having to deal with increasing press on everything, because now they're hitting this point where it's like, well, how come people aren't spending as much on video games as 2020 and 2021? Because we're not in lockdown, and people have moved on to other things, gone back to work, gone back to school, just TikTok. Doing different TikTok, doing other things with their lives or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So. Which again, it's not even like, oh, people are done with it. Like, no, there's still more people playing video games
than ever.
Than more people playing video games than any time before 2019. Just not as many as 2020 and 2021. It's exponentially more.
Objectively had more free time than we have ever had.
So the real problem here is that I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know how you get out of this problem. I personally, I don't see any way out of this unless you were like, you're like Clair, you're like Valve or whatever, and you're just a private company and you don't have shareholders.
Yeah, I think this is sort of just speculation, but I think what will happen is you will see more third-party publishers, or because digital publishing is easier than it's ever been, I think you'll see developers making deals with places like Steam for Steam to act as their publisher, to advertise and also put it on their platform. And so I think you'll see more self-published titles just generally. I also think that that's a big reason why like Activision bought studios when it started buying studios. It was when it got into publishing, is it saw that digital publishing was going to make it easier for studios to publish themselves. Marketing, marketing, I don't have the numbers for the game industry, but as an example of how expensive marketing has gotten, in the 90s, Ford or like car companies spent like $150 million a year marketing. Now they spend $1.5 billion a year marketing. Marketing is saturated, it's over the top, it's crazy expensive. It is also the easiest time it's ever been to market for relatively cheap if you have a good product. That's the key point. If your game is good, it's actually pretty easy to market it or at least it's easier than it's ever been. You don't need a publisher to throw millions of dollars at your marketing campaign anymore. You can find ways to get the marketing out there.
And there's good examples of this too. Go back a couple of years, Lethal Company was a great example of one dude making a game kind of
Clair
thing.
Obscur is a great example of.
I mean, that does have a publisher, but
yes,
but like Lethal Company, and then Balatro, Vampire Survivors. There are multiple games where that don't have major publishers, don't have any sort of marketing behind them. Repo, recently as well. It just finds its way into the right hands enough word of mouth gets out there and sales. And Clair Obscur, of course, as well, which is the current critical darling, because they sold 1 million copies in 3 days.
Targeting the right streamers to play your game, like having enough, like being part of the reason why streamers can sometimes be bad marketing is if a company just like shotgun blasts a bunch of streamers who aren't the right target market. Right? If you aren't the market and I ask you to play my game, it doesn't matter how much enthusiasm you have generally for games. If it's not for you, it's probably not going to be for the people who like to watch you play. Right? But you put the right game in your hands and you're effusive in your praise and you really like it and your audience really likes it. Now all of a sudden you have several thousand people interested in the game generally. Influencer marketing is still hyper effective, even with now people catching on that there are some shady influencers, not all influencers. And really, I can't think of any big name streamers that I know of that like hide when something is a paid thing. I mean, but in the early days of YouTube marketing or the early days of influencer marketing, there was tons of big name influencers that they would just lie about whether they were paid to review a product or something. And now that's illegal, but also it's not common practice to do that anymore. Influencer marketing doesn't have to be wildly expensive. You hire an agency, and I was a creative director at an agency. Granted, we were working mostly with startups, but like big name agencies, some of their markups for marketing is just insane. When we were competing, when we were talking to clients to get clients, and we would like come up with budgets for projects and stuff like that, sometimes those same clients would like go to other agencies with our exact same project, which is shady, by the way. When a client takes your proposal to a bigger agency to have them make it because they don't have faith that a small scrappy agency can make the thing that I did all the creative on, you mother. Anyway, they'll take, and then they'll get quoted for like 6 times just because of the name of the agency. There's like insane markup in some marketing. Not always, but there is.
Well, there's an interesting thing there too, and it kind of gets touched on a little bit in Alana's video as well, which is where you see, like, everyone's kind of waiting on GTA 6, and that was like, oh, well, is GTA 6 going to get people into talking about games? Like, oh, this will reinvigorate the market. If we bring enough people back into there, so people start paying attention. But the marketing. But here's the funny thing about marketing with GTA 6, right? Because everyone always asks, like, oh, well, is it going to show up at? A lot of people keep thinking it's going to show up at Summer Games Fest. I'm like, it doesn't. It's not going to show up at Summer Games Fest or Game Awards or here or there or anywhere, because Rockstar is in a position they don't need to advertise.
Right, they don't have to market at all.
Like people pay money to be at, say, Summer Games Fest showcase, the showcase thing or Game Awards.
That's why it's called the game advertisements.
You have to pay. Rockstar would make you pay them to be there. Like, it would be the opposite. Because I mean, they're not going to do it, and again, they're not going to have. But it's like if like if say the Summer Games Fest really wanted GTA 6 to have a big reveal, like the release date trailer debut at their event, they would probably have to pay Rockstar money. They would have to pay you money so that you can advertise at their venue or at their showcase, because that's where like you've reached this point where it's like they couldn't go on their social media and announce we are going to have a release date trailer come out on YouTube on Thursday next week, and then that's it. They just say that, and then YouTube breaks Thursday morning. Everyone's waiting because that many people are waiting to see the trailer, and the trailer comes out, and that's it. It is its own event.
Do you think so? This is my question about GTA 6, and especially after all the news that's come out. And again, Alana's breakdown. Do you think it's going to bring new gamers in, or is it just going to get a majority of the GTA 5 gamers, or all of them? If it just got all of the GTA 5 gamers, it's going to be an insane over-the-top hit. But is it going to expand its audience? Part of me thinks yes.
No, it's not. Well, yes and no.
GTA 5 is old enough that there's a ton of new gamers, especially Gen Z gamers, that maybe never even played 5.
Right. When it expands, it's going to be expanding to kids. People who are kids win the game, whether that's this year or next year or whenever. There's going to be a bunch of kids who are going to be exposed to GTA for the first time through 6. And those will be your new audience. If you're talking about, like, is it going to expand, like, older people into GTA fold? Probably not as much, because everyone who's above a certain age has probably seen or played a GTA at this point.
Yeah, but will it cause someone to buy a console or a subscription, or is it going to expand the number of people maybe who is it going to expand gaming in general? Is it going to expand how many people are playing it? Is a TikTok video of key moments or fun moments in GTA going to convince a person who has never bought an Xbox or bought a PlayStation to do that, to play this game?
It'll happen. But I don't know if it'll happen in massive quantities, because again, the PS5 has actually sold a shit ton of consoles at this point.
Right.
Over 60 million PS5s are out there. So I don't think GTA 6. I think GTA 6 it's going to eventually sell X amount of copies, but I don't think they're going to sell 65 million copies of GTA 6 on PS5. I don't think it's going to have like a 1-to-1 console tie-in ratio on immediate. Same with Xbox as well. I don't think every Xbox owner is going to buy GTA 6 on launch. I don't. Eventually, the numbers will get there, and they'll be mostly through PC means. That it does get, way over 100 million people are going to buy GTA 6 because of PC eventually. Because as far as I'm aware, it's still going, unless some things have changed. Maybe it did, but it's going to be like PS5, Xbox Series first.
Right.
Then 1 year later, it'll come out on PC, and then it'll sell like, another 100 million copies on PC alone. That's what'll happen. Will it come out on Switch too? Don't know. Probably not. GTA's never really been on any Nintendo console except Chinatown Wars. So again, don't know.
Chinatown Wars. I forgot.
It's a thing. But
I completely forgot about Chinatown Wars.
And I think the crappy remasters that got fixed eventually did show up on Switch 1, but. I don't think GTA 6 will even be in the conversation Switch 2, but there is one point which I thought was interesting raised in Alana's video about GTA 6, and that is people will be buying the game. A lot of them will be digitally downloading it, but it means a lot of people are going to see the store. They're going to see the PSN store. They're going to see the Xbox store. They're going to see their Steam library. They're going to see a digital storefront that they may not have actually seen in a long time. Right. And that's the whole rising tide lifts all ships metaphor analogy is talking about, is that people who are not playing games right now because COVID's over and they've moved on to TikTok or whatever, they're not seeing storefronts. They're not seeing what games are coming out. They're just, but when GTA 6 comes out and all the memes and all the, all the streamers, all the influencers start playing it and clips get everywhere, then they're like, I want to go buy that game. So then they they dust off their system. They go buy a new system that they didn't have. And then they see the digital online storefront that they didn't know existed. And then that's eyes on product that weren't there before. So, and again, word of mouth is actually really important. I think word of mouth is kind of doesn't get enough credit, than it should, because a few days ago, I was walking out of Universal Studios Hollywood, and walking to my car, and we're going through City Walk, which is like the big outdoor mall in front of Universal Studios, and there were some dude broskies talking about Clair Obscur as I walked by. And like, is that game multiplayer, bro? No, single player only. That was all I heard of the extent of the conversation. But
yes,
the fact that these two broskies, probably Gen Zers or something, some Utes, which I have
were
more
they
and more
wearing
just in.
beanies, glasses, and having a mustache with 5 o'clock shadow?
No, not at all. These
maybe
were
not Gen Z,
definitely. I don't know. No, these were definitely young kids. These were definitely like young 20-year-olds.
Broccoli top. Did they have
Yes.
the? Oh wow,
Yes.
Gen Z. I love, by the way, Gen Z saying we brought back the mullet. I'm sorry, millennials did not bring back the mullet. Gen Z they're the ones with mullets and mustaches again. Okay, well, we might have brought
That's
back
older
mustaches,
Gen Z,
'cause that's-
dude. The thing
Yeah,
I
that
see,
is, yeah.
the youths I see now are dressing like people from the early 2000s, and it drives me insane. Because I
That
didn't
shit
like it
rips.
then. I don't like it. Jinkos and Jinkos hoodies and just sort of just like just
baggy corduroys with like airwalks and a somewhat tighter shirt.
right. Yeah,
That's where it's at. Early 2000s skater chic, bitches.
stupid.
The seatbelt belt buckles. Bring those back, Gen Z.
This is
cool, then it's
yeah. That when I start seeing that, but yeah, I just see so much. I just see so much 2000s era fashion everywhere now on the Utes, and it drives me nuts. Just because I'm not nostalgic for it, and I'm like, I don't think it looked good then. I have no idea. I have no
Emo
idea. About
girls are
fashion.
going to come back. And
I think they already all
dozens
have,
of us are
honestly.
excited about it.
They will. I mean, there hasn't been as
Fucking
much as
hair
but like, oh my god, dude, just the man. I don't know. People get nostalgic for style. I'm like, man, I'm not nostalgic at all for this. Here's a weird thing. I think 80s fashion was stupid. I'm gonna have so many haters. I think 80s fashion was stupid. I think leg warmers were dumb. I think 80s hair was just what? I think like the shoulder pads in the suits, stupid.
Come now.
All dumb. Like I think the fashion that is literally just 20 years old now, that is just doing its circle, and it's coming back now. I'm like, I also think is stupid. Like I don't think I have no fashion sense whatsoever. It's kind of what I'm getting at here. I don't think I like any era of fashion in particular. So don't take this as like, oh, he's just a hater or he's
You
just this.
don't
I don't
like-
like anything really. There's just some eras where I'm like, I feel nothing. I either feel nothing for an era of fashion. I feel nothing. Or I hate it. I don't like any fashion era.
Fashion is an extension of yourself.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
You
Which means
gotta,
I have no fashion sense. Like,
It's not true. It's not true. See, you just gotta ask Nadia. Because when you're cleaned up, look at your haircut. Your haircut right now, that is a fashion statement. You look good. You gotta be happy about that.
thank you.
Fashion is important.
I guess my point is just, man, I don't know.
Stick to classics, kids. They never go out of style. You never have to worry about it. Don't wear skinny jeans. Wear tapered jeans. Shit don't go out of style.
they're wearing Jinko jeans, man.
Yeah,
big-
that's gonna go out of style, but that's
The
okay.
big
Because
jeans.
look, I'm okay with. I mean, I'm okay with anybody dressing however the hell they want, really. But
Oh yeah, totally. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like we should have laws against this. Like, no, dress however you want. Just don't expect me to be impressed or like it.
I dressed so poorly until I was like 24, 23, I think is when I finally got my head out of my ass. But like, especially teenagers dressing so whack, I'm here for it. Do it. Get crazy. This is the last time, like when you're a teenager, it's the last you think you're an adult. You're not. It's okay. You're a kid. You could be just wacky as shit. It's why kids in high school that got snake bite the snake bite piercings.
Mm.
God, my senior year of high school, every edgy kid was getting it and like pulling it out so they didn't get in trouble at school and putting it back, or like taking off the studs outside and then just acting like they didn't have snake bites. But like now, could you imagine snake bites? You look like an asshole. But when you're a teenager, that's when you can look like an asshole. Okay, you should look like an asshole. I condone it. I encourage it. I'm here for you.
Okay,
I'm
I
gonna
see your
applaud
point.
you.
If you're a teenager, you should look like an asshole.
Okay, when I got into college and everybody was everyone was wearing so much black by the time we got out of high school, and then I got into college, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wear turquoise pants, and I did actually rock those. I have other people who told me I was rocking
I
them.
remember you had red pants when we were
Oh yeah, I have
first
red pants
filming
too.
Assist Me.
Oh, I absolutely did. Yeah, I'm just saying, you can be bold. Fashion is important.
Speaking of fashion, Clair Obscur.
Also, very French, so high fashion.
Very French, high fashion, and oh my god, the discussion of this game. There's so much has happened because it caught so many people like off guard and blindsided, which not me. I've been riding this game. I've been riding this game's nuts since it was announced at the Xbox showcase. This podcast is good witness to that. From their summer showcase last year, I was like, that is the coolest looking title. I'm super looking forward to this. This looks great. And I was right. I was 100% right about it. It absolutely looked awesome, and it is awesome. I'm not done with it, just for at the time of this recording.
Yeah, how close are you to being done?
I want to say I may be within like a good play session of finishing it.
Okay.
Definitely not nowhere close to 100%ing it because it's a 30-hour RPG with a 60-hour 100%, which is actually kind of short in RPG terms. Like a 30-hour RPG is not long at all.
Well, I don't know. By today's standards, that's a long game.
If it's not an RPG, but like most RPGs take you forever, and even like 60 hours to do everything in an RPG, not that long at all.
Okay,
Really
that's fair.
really not that long. But I mean, the thing is, it's crazy to me was I kept expecting this to be like a sort of breezy short. It's really actually not that breezy or short. There's actually a ton of stuff to do in it. It's not lacking like it's not lacking content or areas or things to do at all.
It had a $5 million budget.
I don't know
Wasn't
what
it?
the
I think it was like $5.5 million budget. 30.
I think that's what they got. I think that's what it got for Game Pass. Actually, I don't know. I have actually no idea what the budget for this game is. I imagine it's because Kepler's a small publisher. They're a small. They publish Scorn and Chia and Flintlock. These are all like mostly. Well, Flintlock's a little higher scale, but like these are tiny games.
Yeah.
Tiny, like kind of like on that somewhere in that nebulous zone between. Some of them are straight up indie, and some are like a little more. These are all ex-Ubisoft devs that apparently, mostly from the Beyond Good and Evil 2 team, that just quit because like the game's never coming out. So
I mean, that further sells the game to me. I'm hesitant because I don't love turn-based JRPG.
yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing: I don't either, but I saw what was going on here. I'm like, oh, this actually looks kind of fun. I'm like, I can tolerate turn-based if there's sauce. I need sauce in it. Sea of Stars had sauce. A lot of people weirdly like are really snobbish about that game for some reason. I have no idea why. It was beautiful and it had a really fun battle system and whatever. People are dumb. But it had sauce. It had sauce in its fighting system, and a lot of people didn't like it for that. And there are some people who are also there's the only sort of pushback is that people don't like the fact that how you can completely negate damage from everything if you're just good at parrying. You're good at timing your
which is
blocks.
why you love it.
So I'm like, good. Sink or swim. Well, but the thing is, the game has 3 difficulties. It has a story mode difficulty, it has a normal difficulty, and it has a hard difficulty, an expert difficulty, or whatever they call it. So if you want
bump to expert, if you think it's too easy,
like whatever, like it's silly to me. It absolutely is just complete silliness that some people don't like the fact that there's actually because in a Mario RPG or say Mario and Luigi series of games, you do have like dodges or no, sorry, blocks. Like you time your blocks, but it doesn't. And I think Paper Mario does this too. you don't negate all damage. You just take weight. You just like half the damage if you time the block or whatever, right? So
Right.
you're okay. You time the block so you take less damage. This is no damage. In fact, this is parry. But
There is sort of like a weird if it's not hard or if it isn't punishing, it isn't good, bro. Like that kind of thing
yeah,
in RPGs and maybe action games too because of Dark Souls. Like there is sort of that mentality floating around where like if it doesn't punish me, you know,
well, I think it's less about like
Spank
games
me,
gotta be
Daddy.
really skill based, difficult. It's more of these are like a different style of angry nerds that are like, I figured out the mechanics and managed and strategically aligned all my things. They did their taxes on their own to find the perfect setup in the battle system, in the menus, in the equipment, in the stats, in the I linked in this and this, I quit this with that, and that's how I beat this game because I'm smart and I spent 5 hours on one character in the menu figuring out the absolute optimal equipment build to the strategy, and I grinded out the enemies in this one area for 5 hours, so I should be rewarded for that. This game rewards you just for pressing a button correctly in this right at the right time. And I'm like, yes.
I'm not going to name names, but we both know a person who's like that and then would refuse to tell you what they did. Who would refuse to share how they beat a certain boss or anything, or like just would min-max and then not tell you, would tell you to look away if they were going to do something.
Right, and just people feel the min-maxing
like
is part of the RPG experience. That is the soul of an RPG, is to min-max your equipment, to correctly equip and use the right, and I'm like, like, the gameplay, the actual physical activity of doing anything in a traditional turn-based RPG has the same gameplay of using an ATM machine. You navigate menus and press buttons.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest draw to RPGs before there were action RPGs was purely that they usually had deeper, larger stories.
Right.
That's it. Like I never understood people who are all like, yeah, the gameplay is so amazing. In even a classic in Final Fantasy VII, the original Final Fantasy VII, like to me, there's no draw. The gameplay has no draw to me there. Yes, there's mini games that are very fun.
The most
but like
I can
the
say,
story and the world and all that stuff, that's the draw.
Well, the most I can say for 7 was the materia system was kind of neat. You know how you could just I just throw all these materias orbs here. Some of them link. Oh, you put an all materia in a linking slot to cure, and then when you cast it, that just means everyone gets cured. Because it had an all materia link to it.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
but
cool.
Like it's not.
Cool.
Well, what I mean,
it's not blowing my mind.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to say like, oh, it's bad, but the draw of like did you go get Final Fantasy VII because you heard of the materia system, or did you go like, oh, Final Fantasy, it has a deep narrative? Maybe the narrative's nonsensical.
Crazy.
Like
it was more like it has this crazy story, this huge world, da 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 da. So
yeah, it's epic.
It's I am the Pope of the Church of Xenoblade, of latter day latter day RPGers. I'm never sitting there trying to tell you got to play this game because the battle system's so great. I'm going to tell you right now, like, battle system in 2 and 3 are fun if you learn it, and it's hard to learn it, and you can ignore it. And I always tell people, I'm like, guys, if you're afraid of the battle system, turn it on easy. I don't care. I've played through them on easy. I've played through them on normal. I've played through them on hard. Like, the battle system is just there for me. Like, it's I don't mean to discredit the battle designers for those games, but the battle system is the weakest part of my whole beloved series. I'm like, I'm not there for the battle system, man. I'm there for everything else, not the fights. The fights or whatever.
I would be genuinely interested if somebody could make an argument that the number one reason they play JRPGs is for like the battle.
I have heard this, but I've heard it in the only way that ever really makes sense is it's zen-like. It's comforting to them. So like I don't have to worry about timing or anything. I could just kind of come home and I could just kind of like they just mindlessly like grinding. They like it. They just like it because it's relaxing.
Yeah, and
Like in a
have got that
relaxing
argument.
sense.
Someone
And I
did,
kind of understand that.
and that's fair. Yeah, I can, like, I personally don't love grinding, but I completely understand when someone goes like, oh, it's just like a zen zone out thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
But that's what like sim games, lifestyle games, whatever. Like people are not playing it because they want to like be constantly engaged in real time mechanics. They're just like I just like having a game where I can just zone out and chill and just play calmly and relaxingly.
yeah,
So
because
and I get that makes sense.
if they wanted to be like constantly engaged, they'd play Roller Coaster Tycoon.
But even that game,
Learn to run a business. Get some profits going.
my brother got addicted to that game.
I did too. I was addicted to it. And then when I got tired of actually trying to run a roller coaster or a theme park business, then I just became obsessed with killing the maximum number of riders on the craziest roller coaster.
And that's how Andrew got his job at Six Flags.
And lost my job at Six Flags. Actually, Six Flags is going through all sorts of changes now.
Yeah.
We don't live by there anymore, but at one point in time we did. Grew up over there, and so I spent many a summer with a season pass when season passes were still worth it. The thing with Clair Obscur, because I was down with it when I saw it at the Xbox showcase. But I was kind of like, it's turn-based. I don't know. And then it was like, oh, no, it's active combat. And then you were just explaining that it's active combat is also not necessarily the best way to describe it. And so if you haven't watched it, it is menu-based for your turn of combat. And then during the enemy's turn of combat, you are actively dodging or blocking. So you don't have that like just waiting to get punched in the face
Yeah.
turn.
There is there's unless like something's happened to you, like your character's been charmed or whatever,
Right.
and you no longer have control and you no longer get a turn, then they'll just get hit or something like that.
The only other thing I've heard most people talking about is that it is very French narrative. The narrative is hyper French.
Which it should be, since it's a French RPG.
Yeah, nothing wrong with like a hyper French narrative. I like French films, and a lot of those are just downright disgustingly French, too French, some might say. No, but it is like this. Someone complained to me that it's nonsensical because it doesn't necessarily it. How did they say it? It gets up its own ass rather than following a clear plot. And this is something that's different between like Americans they love a 1, 2, 3, 4. They love a clear plot. One of our biggest complaints as an audience when you make something is if the plot doesn't like if you have too much vibes and not enough plot. And the thing about the French is they love vibes. You'll go see a French film, and that film might have maybe 2 plot points. It might have a beginning and it might have an end, and the rest of it's just sort of sexy vibes. Beautiful cinematography, swelling music, lots of emotions, but not really anything moving plot or character forward. Not all French films. Plenty of French films have strict plot.
I would say I haven't finished the game, but it doesn't feel like the game is just sort of like vibing. In fact, I would almost say I wish there was a little more vibing downtime between, because I almost feel like things are almost moving too quickly in the game.
Really?
Because it is a faster paced RPG in a way. I mean, it's bigger than I thought it was going to be. But I'm almost like I almost would have preferred more time spending or having even more. I mean, okay, so like without getting the plot of the game, which is you can find some trails. I'm going to try to do this completely spoiler free. Is there's this big giantess called the Paintress who sits in front of this monolith, and every year she paints a number on this giant monolith she sits in front of, and everyone of that age above the age of the number she draws dies. The people are living in this city called Lumiere, which was used to be part of the continent but was pushed out into the ocean. They make expeditions to the continent to try to go confront the paintress and kill her so people don't die. Because she started at 99, and every year it's counted down to now we're down to 33. So that's the point of the game. That is the plot of the game. So you lead this expedition to the continent, the mainland continent of Europe, France, and you're trying to kill the paintress. You're trying to make your way to her to kill her, or stop her from painting numbers and killing all these people, or killing everyone above that age. So, again, like the only thing I almost wish there was more time spent on the continent itself, like going into some of the stuff there. There's some really because I love the fact that it is sort of mysteriously painted. Like you get. I also love the fact, I don't know if this is a French thing or what, but like the game starts with they don't even tell you that much. Like you will know more of the central plot by watching like the first couple trailers than if you went into the game 100% blind, not knowing anything, because the game kind of just starts almost mid conversation. And they don't sit there, and there's very little expository moments. Like when the characters are talking, they're talking like you're already caught up. And
yes, that's
you
how
you just have to catch up yourself. You fill in the blanks yourself and I actually enjoy this.
Yes, that's how it should be in movies
I enjoy
too.
This. I do think this is going to be a little confusing to someone completely blind going off. Just play this game. Okay, I'm like, wait, what's going on? But there's not really any exposition-y moments, which is kind of nice. Yeah. But I almost wish that when you are exploring the continent, I like the fact that they made it mysterious. You get to the continent, you don't know what's going on, and so there's the great discovery of just discovering things on the continent. And I almost wish that there was more time spent on that aspect. But I'm not done with the game. And maybe stuff is hidden in the side, but like it does kind of feel like meet a thing, do whatever, like encounter, leave, bye. And it's kind of like we don't linger on anything in the game, which is both refreshing and almost kind of like, man. But when you enjoy a world and you're enjoying a game, then all of a sudden that sort of refreshing forward momentum almost becomes like, man, I almost wish I got to spend more time with you.
This is something that, like, I personally love it when there is a minimum of exposition in movies and games. You piece it together through conversations, you're thrown into the mix. It makes every conversation more interesting because you're trying to pay attention to what they're saying and what's happening. Yes, Dark Souls takes it to an even more extreme where it's all like they never tell you the story, you just have to read it off of things. But my point is an example of this to end, we'll talk about a good movie that recently came out that we didn't really talk about, Sinners. And I saw a thread of people debating different parts of it, but one person was just kind of like, I hate that they didn't give us any backstory on Remnick. And I was like, what are you trying to give you?
That was the best part, because they did give you backstory.
They give you loads of backstory.
If you paid any attention to what he did, what he said,
what he says
does,
to other people,
his actions, I actually filled in all of those blanks. And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The only thing I was a little unsure of, he said something, and I was like, does that put him here or there? And then there was an interview that clarified, and I was like, okay, yeah.
Which thing? It's been out long enough. This isn't a spoiler.
I'm like, wait, how old is he? He's either this old or this old.
He's got to be around 900 years old.
Yes, it's older.
Yeah,
because he said something, and I wasn't sure which historical event he was referring to that involved Irish people. Because I'm like, it's either this, which is old, or it's this, which is way older, and it is way older. Yeah. So I'm like, that's just being like weirdly like almost like nerd, like very technical with your history. I'm like, he could be referring to this, but he could definitely be referring to that as well.
Stuff like that always makes characters vastly more interesting because it makes them feel real. People don't go around telling you their entire life story to make a statement. Well, they just make the statement and you piece it together.
I mean, if anything, I should have just stuck to my guns. I'm like, oh yeah, he's really old. He's like at least 600. Because he gives his form of payment,
Gold.
is like kind of like like you put that together with what he says and then what he's doing, and it's like, yes, he's hundreds of years old.
Yeah, it's 1932, and he talks about when the Christians started converting the people on the island of Ireland. Yeah, well, he's at least 900 years old. He's an old man. And that's a cool, like, the other thing is like, because he's old and he's fresh to the U.S., and this is actually in an interview with Kugler later, but I put it together, watch the movies, like, our form of racism, our form of slavery, and like the culture that developed around it is confusing and goofy to him. Like, he views it as stupid. And so part of his sales pitch is offering freedom and power specifically to them because he views the position they're in as goofy. He is objectively evil, but he's making a good sales pitch. Like, he's making a pitch that's like, well,
the other thing that's nice about the character too is that, like, okay, yeah, oh, he's a bad guy, you know, he's like blood for a living. He actually has I want to say understandable, like, what he's trying to get, what he's trying to do, like what he wants from the main character is not an inherently like twisted evil thing. It's just
it is a really good reference to colonialism, though. He himself, maybe his motivations aren't necessarily evil or not understood, but he does want to exploit the main character for his talents.
Oh, 100% just trying to use him. But
he is exploitative.
But it's like, okay, well, why does you want to do this? Well, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Like, the reason that's like, okay, I'm gonna real talk it. You could have cut 30 minutes out of that movie. You could have, and it would have been maybe cleaner. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the extra 30 minutes. There's a lot of juicy parts. I'm just saying you could have cut 30 minutes from it, and I think it would have objectively been a better movie.
I don't know, though, because that's so much setup, though.
But there's a lot of setup that you don't actually necessarily need. It's fun because you get to live in it and you get breathing room, and I love breathing room. Look at all the Westerns that I love. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying, like, you could have made it a cleaner movie.
Could have cut his jig, his river dance.
Oh, that's a pretty solid part of the movie. But yeah,
it is, but it's not necessarily important.
You could have gotten away with getting rid of it.
But that also helps establish the evil character.
But that is a juxtaposition of the dance earlier, what we watch.
Yeah,
I don't want to describe that too much, because if you haven't,
I'm just saying that's like where a studio's like, do we need all these? Do we need all these, like, you know, like, do we need all this music in this movie?
Yeah, that's
we could cut it.
Also, being in a theater and just hearing people vibe with Wild Mountain Thyme and the Rocky Road to Dublin was just fun in a way that I didn't expect. Like, seeing a dude river dance and having people cheer for a dude river dancing is like, I did not expect, you know, one of my cousins was a professional river dancer. Okay. Like, growing up, it was barely cool, but it is cool. I mean, objectively.
And vibes are important. There's a story where before the first Avatar came out, and a Fox executive was at did a screening with James Cameron, and then they had their studio notes, and he was like, "Can we cut out some of this tree hugger bullshit? And can we cut? What do we need to see them flying around so much? Like, can we just get rid of some of the flight?" And apparently James Cameron was like really angry with the dude and basically said, you know, the building you're sitting in was paid for by Titanic. I'm keeping, you know, so having this argument, we're staying in here. And no, the tree hugger shit, this is exactly what people are going to latch onto. And he also said, no, people want to see more flying. He's like, I know, like, he basically said, like, you don't fucking know what people want. I do, which is people are going to love flying. They're going to want to see more flying. They're going to want to see as much flying shit in there as possible so it stays in. Biggest movie of all time comes out.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, your first job as the director is to be the audience of the film.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like the flying, which he said was on the notes from test screenings. People said they loved that. What was your favorite sequence? Oh, the flying was amazing. It was so good, they made a whole fucking ride about it. And they made that ride years after the movie came out, and people forgot it. You know, whatever happened in the film. The ride is so good that it is still the most busiest ride in all of fucking Disney World to this day. And an executive wanted to like cut it out of the whole movie, and that thing was so popular. It literally makes people just want to go to a fucking theme park and right in the middle of America's dick just to experience it for themselves. Like that's knowing your audience, and right there's like people are gonna love this shit. So.
My very first screenwriting teacher, and I've definitely told this story before, but since the audience is always changing, he was the guy who wrote SWAT, the one with Colin Farrell, and he was like, you will maybe once, maybe twice in your career meet an executive or a producer, an executive producer who gets it, who just understands the world of film and the market as it is right now. You might meet one or two, and they will be fired immediately. And so he was like, when he was first working on it, he was working with this executive, and the guy was like, get rid of training sequences. Everybody knows SWAT's badass. Like, we don't need to waste half the movie on training. Like, get me into the action. Let's see the badasses doing badass things. And he was like, yeah, it was amazing. And so there was a whole like biker gang sequence where like they were going down a highway, and there was like a road rash scene where they were trying to like knock the vehicle out, and also it got cut so that you could see them all train together for like half the movie. So you could, but they wanted everybody to know that Colin Farrell was really good at it. So he starts as a SWAT officer and then has to go back to training. That wiped out over half the movie that originally was happening, because he was like, this executive got it. We were writing this amazing tight movie, and then that guy got fired, and the very next guy that came in was all like, no. We need to spend the first half building the team. It's like, go fuck yourself. And that was the first screenwriting class I was ever in.
You know what the compromise in my brain is to that is like, okay, how about this? During the opening credits montage, we'll just show a montage of them training during the opening credits without dialogue, and we'll just you'll get it. They trained there. Done.
Yeah, you don't get a compromise as a screenwriter, unfortunately.
No,
you either get fired or you go, oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'm going to explore that.
That's great. Or you do what Ridley Scott does, where you nod and agree and say yes and ignore them completely and go make your movie.
If you're the writer and director, you can get away with that. If you're the director, you can sort of get away with that. But if you're just the screenwriter that got hired, you nod your fucking head. You say, that's a great idea. I'll see if I can make that work. And then you do everything you can to not use that idea while sort of making it seem like you tried to use that idea. And then you get into the meeting again and you're like, oh man, that first idea that you had, I couldn't really make it work, but that other idea you had, something you made up later to make up for this terrible idea they gave you, that you're now going to give them the credit on. And then you give them that idea, and they will 100% of the time go like, oh yeah, I'm so glad you used that, because they don't fucking remember what they said. It's very frustrating.
Well, Spielberg kind of used, I mean, there's a famous story about Spielberg using that approach for the head of Universal.
I don't doubt it.
Well, yeah, have you heard the story about how I forget, whoever was in charge of Universal in the mid 80s was like insistent that they change the name of Back to the Future to Spaceman from Pluto, or I think it was Spaceman from Pluto or Spaceman from Planet Nine. He's like, no, we got to call it that. Like, nobody understands. The audience won't get the name. The name doesn't make any sense, because Spaceman from Pluto, call it that. And Zemeckis was like distraught because he was like insistent on this. And Spielberg got the note because he was the producer on the film. And he's like, I got this. So he writes a note to the head of Universal, basically saying like, oh my God, you're such a funny man. Like, we all like, this is the funniest thing. You have such a great sense of humor, calling a spaceman from Pluto. Like, I mean, you really, you're such a, basically like blowing smoke up this guy's ass, saying like how everyone on set we had such a good laugh. You're so funny. We all love you so much. You're so great. And he basically read it to like, Spielberg himself wrote that note to the executive, or like the head of the studio. And he was just like, and that's how they got to keep the name of the movie, because Spielberg basically embarrassed the fucking dude.
Yeah, well, when you're Spielberg, you can do that. But when you're no name or just getting your foot in the door, just trust me. You just nod your head and say, that's a great idea. I'm going to see if I can make that work. And then you you try your hardest to make that work. And if not, you give them credit on a different idea that totally works and you move on from there. You're going to get fired anyway. This is the other thing. We'll end on this. If you get into that first, say you get into development, they want you'll get first rewrite. You will get fired after that. And they will have someone come in who is going to rewrite the entire script, no matter how good it is. Why? Because, especially dialogue, they can't argue for royalties on the back end unless they change a significant portion of the script. So no matter how good your script is, the guy they hire after, and they will always go through 2 or 3 people because, especially newer executives, they don't have any confidence to make any decisions. So they'll go through like 3 or 4, and then they'll hire a script doctor even after that. Sometimes they'll hire you on at the very end to come script doctor.
There's a weird moment. Patton Oswalt talks about this in a stand-up where he talks about how no script in Hollywood has ever gone from script to film. Like, it goes to like 8 people.
Yeah.
Exactly insane. What you just said. But there's a weird thing where it's like, I feel like it's the opposite. This will get brought up probably. There's a man named Derek Connolly, who's a script writer. He's still in the credits for Star Wars Episode 9. He works with Colin Trevorrow. He writes all of Colin Trevorrow stuff. He wrote the original Episode 9 script, which I forget the original title. It was like Duel of Fates. He wrote Duel of Fates, that script, which is out there. They rewrote the whole movie. Terry Russo and I think it was Terry Russo. I forget. One of the Pirates writers, and he's been with Disney forever. Rewrote the whole script with J.J. Abrams for Episode 9 and got Rise of Skywalker. For some reason, he's still credited on the movie. None of his script is used, but he's still credited on the movie. And I don't know what happened there, because maybe it's because he was announced as the writer for the original, when they originally announced, like, this is the cast and crew, or the crew making Episode 9 is Colin Trevorrow directing, Derek Connolly writing, I don't know.
There could be 2 things that happen. One, they used characters he created. Like, if he created characters specifically for the movie and then they used them, they might have. 2, he wrote the original draft and then the guy came in and didn't just swap in a brand new script. He actually rewrote. He went through and wrote new parts and they were like, oh, change this to make this work. And so they were technically within the original script, rewriting the script rather than swapping out.
Well, the thing is, it's not the original script. It's like nothing is the original script. Like nothing about it is the same.
Yeah, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, like, it could just be that, like, they used his outline for a long enough time, or just because it didn't make it onto screen doesn't mean that he wouldn't get credited. They might have used his materials for developing the story. They might have used his plot point. Like, maybe they used some of the plot ideas that he had. He might have been a script doctor that came back in and corrected dialogue or character moments and got
Chris
credited.
Terrio, sorry, that's the rewriter.
Yeah, so he got credited, and that way he gets royalties.
Yeah,
so the only way to get royalties is if you're credited.
Yeah, according to like a really quick article from Yahoo Movies UK, he retains story by credit.
Oh, right. Okay.
On Episode 9, because he co-wrote the original story with Colin Trevorrow, and then Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams took over writing it, blah, blah, blah. Because Trevorrow and Connolly's initial story laid the groundwork for the film, they were given a story by credit by Yahoo Movies.
Yeah, that makes sense. And they probably got a slice of the 2 points on the back end. Maybe not a lot, and maybe there's a possibility that they might have, said they didn't want the slice, but they would have been, if they're credited for it, they got the opportunity to get a slice of those 2 points. So if you're writing a film, you'll get 2 points a net on the back end. You'll never get gross, but you'll get 2 points a net on the back end. And the guy who comes in after you doesn't get the initial payment. He'll get paid weekly. And he's going to try and change as much as possible so that he can then go to the WGA and argue for as much of a percentage of that 2 points as he possibly can. So, you end up, I don't know how true it is, but I have literally heard of fistfights happening between writers where like a guy changed one line of dialogue and got 10% of the royalties or shit. It's wild. But on that note, ending on notes of exposition, and we're happy that Clair Expedition 33 does not have too much exposition. We've got producers to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Mike M. Thank you, Mike. And our producers for this episode are Dragonwolf Makoto, Osnite, Zybernite, Skronami, Croy35, HyperViper89, LCL Mayhem, and Ziggy Z. Thank you, dudes. We'll catch you next time.
Later, dudes.